Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to another episode of Cities Skylines. And here we are at the Auridon racetrack that we built last time out. And I had so much fun building this. Clearly everyone is something that I'm super passionate about in real life. So just putting this together in cities. Actually my first time doing a proper F1 track like this. Obviously lots of planning went into it, but I think it turned out alright. Yeah. Just love building every minute of it, and based on the comments I think you guys enjoyed it too, so thank you so much for all of the love on that. Now there is just one thing to point out, one little change that we have made based on some comments and suggestions here. So we have just moved some of the bus stops, so we've got one at the end of the pit straight here and then one also on the start finish line, so it does mean they get to come down the start finish straight, however they are still stopping on it at the moment, but we can pretend this is a practice session. But what that means is actually we have got cars that are much closer together, almost look like they're racing each other now, which is quite nice to see on the track. And yeah, it's giving us a new perspective, so I really like that idea. The other idea that was suggested was to add multiple bus lines with different colours, so we've got different coloured cars going around, which is again something that we can add, but I'm not going to do it just yet because we've got an awful lot of bus lines in Auridon, so I don't want to clog them all up on the racetrack, but it's something that I may do towards the end of Auridon, knowing that we've got enough room for more bus lines left within that. So right off the bat today, what I do want to do is give this racetrack a name, and there was one suggestion that came through, and this was a suggestion from Ben Yates that I just could absolutely not pass up. It was just way too good to be true. So I have already got a park area over this actually, which you may not have seen in the episode. We do have some park gates in here that we could get some assets off the road, so that is why that was in here. I did call it F1 Park, but that is going to change. So thank you, Ben Yates, for your suggestion. So we are going to call this the Nodeberg Ring, which is just awesome. I've used almost 3% of the nodes just in this one build, and it was 100% worth it in my opinion. So that is just a lovely little play on words, and I think fits into the whole Auridon vibe really nicely. Thank you so much, Ben, for that suggestion. And the other thing that I do want to do before we crack on with today's build as well is give a name to our amusement park here. And this was a suggestion that came in from Badgerboy59, and that was to call it Auridon Towers. Now people outside of the UK may not know what the play on word is there, but there is a big theme park in the UK, probably the biggest I think, called Alton Towers. So that's why we'd go for Auridon Towers here, which I really like. Nice little play on words. Here is using the Auridon name as we have done elsewhere. Love it. Thank you, Badger Boy, for that suggestion. Really appreciate that. Now, since last time, we have also had a little stream where we came in and just did a tiny bit of downtown detailing. So we created these little benches here for this walkthrough through the shopping area. Used a couple of the sit-in sims as well, just to decorate that up. But I think these little layers of hedges and the planters with benches worked really nicely in this case. We also did come around and decorate around this big building here. Just some little garden detailing, nice little jacarandas out the back, and down at street level this is all starting to come together. We also added in a few more buildings here, a load of street trees and little planters, a couple of little props along the street here, another little plaza here as well, which I think worked out quite nicely, using just a bit of tiling detail. We've got a path that runs across the middle there, so Sims do actually walk down the tiling. A few benches at the side, I think it worked out pretty nicely. And then we also came in and did this plaza too, with a little street food market here that people are actually walking through. I need to adjust that back a little bit. Small fountain in the middle with a little rose garden around it, and then some benches dotted around for those workers in the offices nearby. Did a tiny bit of building fusing around the side here to get rid of this massive plain concrete wall, and then just decorated up a few more areas, so a couple more of those hedge patterns here. More planters and trees, and just generally tidied up this area of the downtown. So I think that that is all looking reasonably nice now. Still got little patches to detail down this side here, but today that is actually what we're going to come on to. So my aim for today is to finish this entire side of the downtown here. We're going to come in with a residential neighbourhood along here, a school park with a football club, a little bit of tourism and some hotels to sit around the movie studios and around the amusement park, and of course the Theatre of Wonders there. And then we're going to come in over here with an industrial style waterfront, a kind of old industrial waterfront, a little bit run down, broken down, that kind of thing, just to frame out this front of the downtown here. It will be quite a contrast to these nice posh condos that we've got going on down the other side, but I think it will be a nice addition into the Auridon downtown. Okay, so starting off with our road layout for our residential neighbourhood, we already have some roads in here that we are just very simply going to extend. So we'll bring this one down to the main road there, and then we will just extend this one out just a little bit and bring it down to meet this road over here. So I'm thinking roughly like this will do nicely there. We've got a nice even connection between those. I will just as well, to smooth it out, use a little bit of node controller here just to offset those junctions a little bit and make those connections a bit smoother. And then we will also use traffic manager here just to give ourselves dedicated turning lanes on both of those, on this one that we've missed, and also remove those traffic lights there because I don't envisage a huge amount of traffic coming out of this area. Now as well within this I do want to incorporate some car parks, so from here we will come out around about there, I think, just a small stretch, sort of almost into the middle here, and then we'll grab our parking lot roads for this and bring out 2 long stretches of car park that we can utilise here around our builds. So we'll just bring that one out like that at a slight angle to make it a little bit more interesting. Now what I want in here is actually a residential neighbourhood that is going to be really walkable. So we're not going to use any other roads within it, but we are going to dot a lot of houses in around it. So as a centre point, what I am thinking is that I'm going to use this large park. So let's just get Anarchy on to get this in for starters. And what I want is it really centre aligned so the entrance is in line with that monorail. And what we're going to do then is shift it back away from the monorail station, but just enough that it still stays connected to the road. So we need to keep an eye on this. And that looks like it is still good. There's a couple of trees in the monorail, so let's see if we can shift it back a tiny bit further. And that has just gone slightly too far. We'll adjust it back as far as we can go until that connection sign goes. Looking at the trees, they're not on the monorail track. They are a little bit in the station, so we may have to do some bobbing of those trees just to remove the ones around the track, but we'll do that when we come to the detail and time lapse. And then of course with this we do want to extend out the path network as well, so people will hopefully look like they're essentially walking through this monorail station to get to the park, which is kind of what I want to see from this. We will then extend the path network out from each of these 4 corners, and we are just going to do this very simply, very straight out, nothing too fancy here. And then what I will do is quite up close to it is bring out more connections to the main road, so just about there, and then trying to get it relatively even on the other side around there. And then we'll add in more path connections as we put in our buildings just to keep this area super walkable. We're going to have to use a lot of spawn points mod to move the spawn points on these buildings because they are not going to sit perfectly against roads. Now I'm going to turn this area into what is going to look like a very highly planned residential development with a lot of the same buildings in it. So we are just going to use this building as the starting point, which I think is quite nice. I think because this area is actually got really nice views out over where the racetrack is, down to the Statue of Liberty, all the way almost over actually to Eggsy's Castle over there as well, but down onto the waterfront in particular, I feel like these residences should look like reasonably nice. And these have some lovely little balconies on them with deck chairs and that type of thing, so I think they look suitable for a waterfront residential property. So we're going to use Move It, and we're going to make these blocks slightly bigger than what they are. So we're going to copy this, and what we'll do is hold Alt so we spin it perfectly round, and then we are just going to merge it into the back here. So what we want to do is line those balconies up really closely. So if I just place that in like that, actually I think that has gone in all right first time. We'll come through and change the colour of the building so it all lines up and matches. But yeah, that looks okay to me. So therefore we've got this nice, much larger block sitting like that. And then just to add to it as well, I'm going to use Alt again, just to spin it round. And we'll add a third one onto the back here. Now this one will need to merge in just a little bit more. So yeah, just like that is okay. We've got reasonably smooth connections on the corners there. And then, yeah, what that gives us is a nice, much more blocky, much more interestingly shaped apartment block there. So let's just go ahead and make sure that these are the same colour. So I'm actually going to copy this sort of lightly grey colour and paste this into the other 2 buildings here so they're all coming out the same. And then what we're going to do is repeat these around this block, maybe using some slightly different configurations in some of these smaller areas here. And so there we go. So we've got a few different kind of patterns of it. A couple of single blocks, a couple of these double blocks arranged in nice little patterns there, and extending out onto this side as well. So what we'll do when it comes to the detailing is come in here and detail up some really nice gardens, much more paths, a little bit of parking as well within the middle. We'll probably actually change this bit into an entry road and have some parking in the middle here. Potentially a small car park as well on this side too. But then lots of like playgrounds and green space, trees, that sort of thing, to make it into a really nice kind of treed garden residential district. So that when you're down in the middle of it, you've got all of these kind of condos looking very similar, and that's the type of vibe that I really wanted to go for this particular area. And over this side, what I would like to do along this street is repeat some of the patterns from these, but also as well, because we are right next to some of the taller skyscrapers, I want just a little bit of a pop in height over on this corner. So in order to do that, I am going to get a couple of pretty tall residential buildings. So this one actually is one of the ones I want to put onto this corner. And if we put two of these in, these go together really nicely. So we just arrange these. It's actually front to front, I've realised when doing this. But into this type of pattern, which I think we have done elsewhere in Auridon. Let's just shift that and make sure that that is really nicely merged all the way around the building, which it is like that. And we'll also just get repaint here and make sure that these are the same colours. And then what we'll do with this building is, let's use Move It, of course, to arrange it nicely onto this corner. So I'm thinking what we will do is spin it around like this and just place it right in the middle there. Because then what we get when we're coming up this quite important street actually, because this runs alongside the waterfront of the main downtown here. Obviously curves in around all of these shopping districts and the residential district on the left hand side. We get that really nice tall building right in front of us there, which I think is an important layer of height as we go down into these condos at the back here. A couple of other taller buildings as well that I'd like to add in. I think we'll have this one actually, which I haven't really used very much, just situated right here, which again just gives us a little bit of a build up as we go towards these higher buildings over this side and into the downtown area there. Just thinking about that skyline and the layers of height. And then here as well, because down this road, I think that is a reasonably nice view past all of these condos this side. What I am going to do is use one of the buildings that we have used already in this little neighbourhood this side, which is this one. And we're going to put two of those in side by side, and again we'll use Move It just to merge these in nicely together. So what we'll do there is actually get that kind of diagonal bit in the middle and make sure that we're aligned on these rooftops. So let's just move that back an ever so tiny touch. Yeah, because then again when we're coming down this street here, we get that nice framing of this building in the background, and it's not the nicest looking building, but it does complement obviously these towers that we've got in this district here. So it goes with them nicely. It's a slightly shorter version of some of these ones that we've intermingled throughout this district. And then again, for consistency, I will copy these assets down here and frame this road. And so there we go. So we've got this nice, really consistent approach to this little street down here. When you come down to street level, actually, it looks quite nice with these houses all up here. You do need to go through and make sure they're the same colour. I've then just also dotted in a couple of these smaller, fairly similar vibe looking houses around these car parks here. So we'll go in the detailing time-lapse with a lot of detailing all around these to create some little play areas, some communal areas, a lot of green space, and also walkability to and from various streets into the car parks, etc. And then I have just dotted in actually as well two slightly taller buildings here, just to again give a slight layer up from those lower ones. And it also just helps, I think, with the skyline. We've got slightly taller, blockier building there rather than just looking straight through to these lower ones in the background. So I think all in all, this side of the downtown is looking pretty busy and also looking pretty nice. Now we clearly have this space, which we will come on to in just a second. But for now, that's that space done until we come through with the detail and time lapse. And I think as well with the shops, we will add in a few more up to here, and then we'll do some nice green belts between this main road and the highway here. Now for this space, one thing that we desperately need actually is education. So when I look at the education panel, we're really low on elementary schools. We're actually almost 600 up, so we need a couple of them realistically. And then also high schools too. Now we don't have any over this side of the downtown. We've just got a high school and an elementary over this side. So we desperately, with all of these residents living in here, need to supply them with some education facilities. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do in this little space here. And I'll do that in a time lapse and be right back. So there we go. So what I have done is I've actually just added in a football club on this corner, which is an asset off the workshop, which I don't think we have used in Auridon yet, but I thought it was a nice touch here next to this graveyard, next to the raised highway, fitted in quite nicely into here. And then we've just added in a little service kind of road to the back here where we've got a lot of car parking, which I think is needed around this area, and particularly next to the football club as well. Use a little bit of node controller here just to offset that junction, so we just got one node rather than two super close together, which I think gave a nice effect. And then coming on to the school part, so I've actually just put two of the vanilla high schools back to back, which actually I haven't done before. And I think it turns out alright. I've just spotted need to use bulb to remove those invisible car parking spaces. So let's do that, because yeah, those are those ones in the middle. We definitely don't want those. We can leave the ones at the front, that's absolutely fine. Don't want cars hiding out in the middle of the building. But I think that turns out alright, and it actually looks really quite nice from the side views. The longer length to the building, slightly bigger, slightly blockier. A little bit of car parking down the side here, and we'll come in and do some nice garden detailing, maybe a few benches, a recreational area here, and we'll of course fence in the entire complex. We have then added in a library and a couple of office assets to look like additional high school buildings, so I have just used repaint it here to try and sort of mirror the ready brick of the high school there. And then behind it we've added in two elementary schools, which what I will do come the detailing time lapse, so we've merged these fences in here. What we will do is fence it all in, make one big playground so it seems like one elementary school complex, just with a few different classrooms involved in it. And then on this side we'll add in a park here, or some kind of parkland when it comes to the detailing again, and we've just got some services down here, so small fire station, small police station, which again we'll do some detailing around to extend out the car parks, add in a police car lot, as we usually do with those assets. But that I think will sit quite nicely as a big school complex here for this side of the downtown. And we have got absolutely tons of people flooding in from this metro station. Actually it looks a little bit quieter now, but it has been super duper busy. So what I may do is add in some more shuttle buses around here as well, just around this neighbourhood, to get people to and from this metro station, because it did look very busy at one stage. That's calmed now. So I think that will do for the residential area plus the school complexes to serve all of these residents here. So that should hopefully give us a little boost in the population, being that this is all high density as it levels up. We'll help them level up though by bringing in, like I said, a shuttle bus, some parks around, and it has now got the services around it too. So that should be good for that area. Now coming on to this small strip here, what I would like to do is add some tourism in. Now clearly we've got the movie studio right there. We've also got the theme park and the Theatre of Wonders over the other side. So I think a little bit of tourism is needed here. So let's go in and have a little look at our tourism assets, and the hotel assets in particular are what I want to incorporate into here. So these assets can actually merge, I think, quite nicely together. So I'm just going to place 2 of these in for the moment. And actually what we do want here is some parking servicing these hotels. So let's just go to parking lot roads, add in a very small service road, and then we'll come out in a larger car park up next to it, not joining up to that road but moving it right up as close as we can get without that pavement texture spilling over, so round about there. And then with these assets what we can do is we'll just spin them around. We've got one here, and what we get is this really nice corner entrance to it there too. And then if we spin this one around, we can actually merge these in together to create quite a nice effect. So what I'm conscious of is this entranceway at the bottom here. So that is what we are going to try and align. We'll have a little bit of windowage on the side there, so I think sits all right. Let's move that up a tiny bit, so we're hiding the bench down the bottom there. And then if we check at the back here, that all merged in reasonably quite nicely together, so I'm sort of happy with how that looks. What we definitely do want is the same coloured building, so let's just go ahead and reset this one and we'll get that same kind of turquoisey blue colour in. So yeah, what that creates is then just a bigger hotel, 2 little entranceways at the bottom there, but I think that all flows together quite nicely. And of course let's not forget to put in our car parking spaces as well. And coming on to another hotel asset that I quite like to use is this one. So what we can do with this is we have one of them facing into the car park like so. So we'll leave a little bit of a frontage area here as a little bit of kind of space for the hotel to grow. And then what we'll do is merge this one into the side of it. And again, we obviously want to make sure that we're using the same kind of colour palettes, although actually it doesn't matter too much on this. We could have blue and orange. Yeah, if we merge that into the side of it, what we then get is this nice roof terrace up top and slightly different shape to it. So we're not just putting them exactly side by side. It doesn't really work with this building too well. I found that actually this, I think, works pretty well. And now what we will do in the detailing time lapse is come around and create little yards for these hotels, so some outside spaces in and around them, which I think will help to frame them off quite nicely. I'm actually just going to move that slightly further up to the main road there, so that that kind of joins up and people could walk in off the main road out of the studios and into this hotel here. So what we'll then do here is add in some more tourist assets just down this street, some more hotels and a mixed leisure use as well. And then we'll add some Green Cities commercial in here just because of noise pollution. I'm conscious that we don't want to extend it out into these residences, and some of the leisure and tourism can be pretty noisy. And there we go. So yeah, I have just added in a few just commercial buildings, a leisure building here, and then lots of tourism buildings, just hotels, just to line this strip, which I think looks quite nice when we come down to street level. We've got these big tall hotels there, and then we come down with slightly fewer lower buildings, little different changes in height there. And we can do some nice park detailing, maybe some car parks, etc. out back here when it comes to the detailing time lapse. And then I have as well just added in, as mentioned, a few Green Cities commercial along here so that we haven't got the noise pollution for the residents. And I've just lined that with a few car parking spaces, just using our 4x1 car parking asset here, which I think, yeah, looks quite nice. Of course, I've banned parking using Traffic Manager on that main road so that they park there, but I think that lines the front of this little shop row quite nicely as we come round the corner there. So that is this area complete in terms of the buildings. We obviously need to do an awful lot of detailing in and around all of these neighbourhoods, around the hotels, so we will come on to that in the detailing time lapse. But now we turn our attention to the remaining area, which is this waterfront strip here. Okay, so to start off with in this area, the first thing that I want to incorporate is actually a fish market. So over in Ducky Docks, we do have quite a few fishing harbours out there, and some of them are struggling actually with places to deliver their fish. So I think this would be a nice asset to fit in here, and it just about fits in perfectly between these two roads. Now obviously we'll need to do a bit of fencing here. So we'll extend out the container yard at the back and add in a few more stalls at the front using the Green Cities assets just to extend that out and make it a little bit more interesting. Now because this is going to be kind of a sort of old rundown industrial waterfront, what I do want to use is use quite a few generic industry assets. So the types of things that I'm thinking are ones like this, where we've got these corrugated iron roofs that look a little bit run down. I don't want great big chimney stacks down here. Potentially one or maximum two might be acceptable, but realistically I want to use some of these other older buildings that are more like warehouse style buildings. But certainly these type of little warehouses are very much wanted here. Definitely these red ones, and actually that is what I am going to come in and do next to this fish market here. So we're actually going to create a little sort of warehouse yard next to it using some of these generic industry assets. So if I just copy this one, we'll do our old usual trick with these and just put them right next to each other so we get a few in a row, which I think just always looks really nice and can kind of look like a bit of an out of town warehouse style area where you've got like different floor shops or bathroom shops, tiling shops, even though there's laminate floors on all of them. That's the style that we're going for here. I think we will actually just add in one more here as well. So just like that. And I'm conscious I don't want to add too much industry because I think that too much could be too much. And do have a tiny bit of demand for it, but not much at all. Just because we have increased that population over the course of this episode. Another thing I would like to put in here as well is a little petrol garage. And I think we are just going to use the vanilla one for this rather than our spa asset that we have been using elsewhere. I think we could plot this in quite nicely, potentially with its back to the fish market like so. Leave a very small alley for a bit of detail in there. But what we will do is then bring out a road into this area. So I'm thinking I will actually use an industrial road for this. The grass line road along the front here probably needs to change a little bit, become a little bit rougher. So I'm thinking we'll probably upgrade this to industry road all the way along this section at least. Certainly that bit, and in fact we will do all of it there. So in here we'll take the 1 unit industrial road for this and we'll just bring out a little courtyard area, and I think we'll just bring it up like that in front of the garage and then we'll convert it to our pavement road, which just looks a little bit nicer, so it looks like it's actually going into some kind of courtyard area here. So let's just adjust that back a little bit and we can bring that out like so. And then what we can do in these spaces is add in some of our car parking. So the same little strip car parks that we've used elsewhere, these little ones, I think just give a nice effect in here. Now that one is almost slightly too long, so let's just bring these nodes over a tiny touch. And we'll just snap that back into place so we've got a nice smooth curve there. And then we can move this up a little bit, which makes a nice car park at the side of the garage there as well. And there are some other low density commercial buildings which would work in here quite nicely. So I'm thinking in particular the market. Could even have this one, nice old brick building. Let's just move these two up there for the moment. A little Andy's bowling we could have situated at the back here. If we drop it back a little bit as well, that gives us an opportunity to put some more car parking in front of it. So again, we can just grab our little 4x4 car park here, spin this around so it's nice and situated in front of that bowling alley, like so. And then we've got our little bowling alley at the back of this kind of run-down industrial commercial style unit here. Yeah, this is the market that I was also thinking of, which makes quite a nice little corner shop. So we can just place this on the corner, which fits in quite nicely there in between our nodes. Let's just grab this road and move it up as well, so we're creating a bit more space there. And then at this end what we can start to do is introduce some different assets here. This little workshop will fit in quite nicely at the back of the marketplace here, so we'll just pop that in like that for now. And then what we will do is extend out our road here. So we've got this coming down the middle, just like that. I think we'll have some more car parking in there as well next to the bowling alley. I think would make sense. Okay, so then coming along here, what I'm thinking is actually to have a tiny little leisure waterfront. Some of these buildings do fit in really nicely here. And I'm actually going to spin them round so the back is facing onto that side. And yeah, we will just put in a small row of these kind of leisure buildings. I'm not keen on that one because of the high tiles. I think we'll move that. We'll stick to these ones which are more kind of bricky and blocky and slightly older looking. Yeah, we can definitely have a flex gym in there. I want to change the colour of that, certainly. So yeah, we'll continue to develop a little bit of a leisure style waterfront out here, as if some of those old kind of rundown factories have been converted into leisure buildings, still with a bit of industrial and commercial, generic commercial behind that. So there we go. So I have just put in the extension to the fish market here. We've put in little extra green cities market type stalls, which I think blends in quite well with the blue. It extends out. We'll do a bit more detailing around the back here with the containers. I have just popped into warehouse yards here as well, which I think is needed. Close to the downtown, we need to get some storage for commercial goods, so that's what I have assigned to them again. And clearly a bit more detailing needed around here. I've continued on with this little sort of out-of-town commercial industrial units here. A couple of actually forestry buildings, which I thought worked quite well. Warehouse-looking type assets, extra car parks, a little warehouse there. And then some commercial up the front, so a few of the leisure buildings just continued that on, and then just some generic commercial in here. And I've also added in a cinema, which I thought looked quite nice up against this waterfront, in with all these old leisure buildings. It could have been an old brick factory or something that's been converted if we're taking it as the old industrial waterfront. And then down this side, actually, because we have got these nice condos here and I didn't want to put dirty industry in front of them, particularly when we've got like the nice Museum of Modern Art there and also the ugly waterfront over this side as well. I thought this bit needed to be a little bit nicer, so I've just done some fusing of some green cities buildings here, taking this design, creating it into little blocks and squares, and rotating them around so there's a little bit of difference there. A couple of these ones sat on the end, and I've put car parks in between them for now, but we'll come in with a lot more detailing around there. Have a little park area here as well, just to separate that noisy commercial industrial bit from this nice condo housing. And actually the view coming down this road now, got so many people walking on the quays up there, but this is starting to look good. So with a bit of fencing and a bit more detailing along here, it will start to look quite busy, I think. And yeah, I think it will turn out okay with a bit of detailing. So the final thing that I want to come on to today is actually ferries. Now clearly we have a ferry line that runs all the way around the downtown and into here, right from out from Stanton Island, I believe it is. What I'd like to do is create 2 additional stops. One out here, and also one on this side, just so that there's some extra transport for getting people around. They're not relying to go into the downtown and then out to all these other places. And it will also give people a means to cross from this side of the peninsula to this side without having to go into the main downtown exchange as well. So I think that's a useful thing to do. So here what we'll do is add in just one of these small ferry stops. So let's just delete out a small segment of this road. In fact, we'll delete this one for now. And then we will add in our ferry stop there. And then what I will do with move it, I want it just slightly closer, is we will hold Alt here and just move that up so it stays nice and level. And then we will grab this road again and connect that back on in. Now we do just want to check the height of it as well, which actually seems to be fine like that. So I think that that is okay. I'm going to leave that section of road there because I don't mind having the crossings actually. So I think, yeah, we'll leave that section rather than trying to upgrade it. And then across this other side, what I am going to do is actually add in one of the ferry and bus terminal stops here. So I'm just going to drop it on the side, and this is going to need quite a bit of detailing around it to help it blend in here. So we'll probably put just a few very small commercial units opposite it. Maybe a little bit of quays around it coming out of the rocks and then onto the beach this way. But we'll just add that in here for now, and then of course we want to add in some bus routes from it. So when I mentioned earlier we'd have a shuttle bus running around this area, that's what we'll do from here. So we'll kind of have buses that run around this area into the downtown, and probably to meet up with the intercity bus station that we've got over here as well. So just thinking about road network, I think what we will do is just bring it straight out of here and then down into the ferry like that. And again, a bit of detailing is needed around here just to tidy it up. And of course, what we will do as well is just clear up this section here by moving out these trees, and also just deleting off these final sections of prop fencing here. So let's grab our props. There's quite a few of them, and let's just delete them out. Got another little rogue tree there as well, so we'll move that across. And as part of this detailing time lapse today, I will be tidying up this waterfront. We'll add in more green belt this side. We need a bit more fencing, maybe a little bit of detailing along the beach needed as well. But that will do to hook up our ferry stop, and we will just use some node controller here just to offset that orange node a little bit more. Now it is quite a steep down, so I think what we will do is just raise this section up a bit. That's slightly more gradual. And in fact, we could use move it slope function, just give ourselves a little bit more of a slope there. That doesn't look quite right. I think actually what we might do is curve this out. So yeah, that feels a little bit nicer and a bit smoother to me. And I've just noticed as well that these arrows, obviously we've set up dedicated turning lanes here, so let's just go ahead and do that again. So there we have got the turn over the road that is the dedicated lane, so where they're turning over traffic. I think that makes sense, so we'll leave that like that. Okay, so let's get our ferries hooked in. Well, there we go, so we've got our ferry lines coming in and stopping in both directions at this stop. So it comes right down from the Ugly Waterfront up to here, continues on round to this side, and then out to Stanton Island over here. So that should work nicely, I think, just to help transport a few more people. So then as part of the detailing time lapse, what I will do is add bus lines into here, and we'll have, as mentioned, one shuttle bus that runs round this entire area and down onto this waterfront here. We'll also have another shuttle bus that takes them to the intercity bus station, and then probably another one that takes them through to the transport hub here so that they can get various different places on the train, should they so wish, the metro, which will take them out to the docks and all the rest of it. So I think that will be a good solution for our bus lines, and I'll do that as part of the detailing time lapse. In which case that does therefore lead us on to detailing. So I will go ahead and jump into a detailing time lapse and be right back. And there we have it. So that actually turns out it was quite a lot of detail. This was quite a large area to fill, which I actually wasn't expecting for this episode. But let's start off down here. So we've got our ferry stop in. I've just put in some basic keys around it just to frame it off next to the beach. A couple of trees and that sort of thing, and a little small light commercial strip here. We have put in an underpass as well to help pedestrians get across. They're not crossing over this ring road, which I think is much better there. And as mentioned, I have put in a few bus lines, one just taking them around this area and back, one going through to the bus station there, another one to the downtown, and then one just swinging around this side of this part of the downtown. Kind of a few different shuttle buses running around this area. And then so coming on to just the highway here, we have just finished this off with a load of fencing using the new IMT function where you're able to put fencing in alongside your roads and it doesn't take up any nodes. So we've used a bit of farm fencing all the way along here, which I think has turned out quite nicely. Up on this road again, we have just used more fencing here to frame this off all the way along and added in a tiny bit more commercial here just to finish off that strip. All around this residential district here, we have got a few little play parks in, a couple of car parks. We've got a road coming up through here using our pavement roads, a few little bollards as well, just to mark where that is as they come through to the car parks here. A little bit of fencing to finish that off. We've got a few tables dotted around, little picnic tables in various different spots, as we can see there. Very much all the same in here, so lots of little play parks, a nice dog park hidden away at the back over here as well. Lots of greenery. And then a few little different areas with tables, so like here, picnic tables in there, a couple of little picnic tables out here. We've got lots of cars so that people are able to walk around freely from different roads and connect up into this car park in the centre here. And then coming on over to the school park, we have, as mentioned, just put in an extra little police car lot around here, fenced off these areas. A little bit of a park here, just a very small play park, nothing much done to that. And then around the elementary school, as mentioned, we have fenced this off so that it looks like one unit here. Added in a basketball court, a little picnic area, a few more play items just to finish that off. And then again, some more bollards around the high school here. We have added in a little bit of fencing at the front just to kind of frame the outside of the complex, but it is reasonably open here. We've got people playing basketball there, yay! A few bollards as well just to mark the front there, and some car parks down this side with some picnic benches. And yeah, not too much down here, just a bit of fencing just to finish off that section. Coming on over to the hotel, so we have finished off this one as a big resort hotel, which I think was quite fitting here. A couple of swimming pools, little restaurant area, deck chairs, again another little sort of restaurant area, bar area down this side. And I do like the use of planters here, which sort of frame off the outside. Kind of, we've got a privacy fence up, but that just makes it a little bit more interesting in places, having some of those plants around. And then little flower garden outside this one as we come down onto the main strip. So I have just freed off the inside of that, but all of this I think has turned out quite nicely down here. And then if we shoot on over to here, I have actually added in the park maintenance depot, realising that we actually haven't got it in at all in this area, so I think that that's coming quite nicely. A little bit of fencing and trees just around that to frame that off. We've used a tiny bit of node controller at the end just to give it a little turnaround point before you go down into the park for Auridon Point, down to the Auridon sign at the end there. A few car parks and a bit of fencing around the ferry, but nothing too much there. And then, yeah, just some more bush detailing. We have continued on the container detailing as mentioned in this extended fish market here, little car park at the back there, but nothing too much. We have put in stain decals all over this so it looks a little bit rougher and a little bit more worn down. Put in some props at the back of these warehouses here, which I think fits in quite nicely. A few more bollards just to frame off some of these car parks around the bowling alley and around the pennies there. But nothing too heavy in this area, just the odd prop, crates and planks and that sort of thing here and there. And then coming down here, we've done some nice fencing to frame off this sort of garden area around the overpass there. But again, not too much here, just a few trees and bollards and little car park extra details here, just to finish off this area. And we have, of course, fenced all the way along here, just to finish that off. And then I've done a few other little bits of detailing, like these little plants along here, these little flowers. Mixed kind of bush pattern, I think, just to make that a nice edge here. But now that is this whole side of the downtown complete. So yeah, that is completely filled in. So Auridon is definitely filling out. We've just got this side now of the downtown to finish. And then we're going to extend on out all the way over here and various other places on this quite huge map. When you look at it like that, Auridon's still quite small. But it's definitely growing. Our population has increased a fair amount over the course of this episode, but we still do need more residents. So for today, that is going to be it. If you have got suggestions for any of the areas that we've built, so in particular that kind of rundown industrial waterfront area needs a name, so please do let me know any suggestions in the comments below. If you have enjoyed the episode, a like is always really appreciated, and I just want to thank you all again just for all of the insane support over the last few months. It's just been crazy and I absolutely love this journey. But that is all from me for now, so stick around for the cinematics, otherwise I will catch you next time. Bye bye!